Welcome back, YouTube, to Icy Chap's Edge. I'm Icy Chap here with another review. This time you are looking at the Wusthof Classic Santoku. And you might be asking yourself, why is Icy Chap reviewing a kitchen knife? Well, it's simple really. I'm a knife enthusiast, and I would be remiss if I did not pay attention to the category of knives we use more than any other. We use them more than wilderness knives, we use them more than utility knives, and we use them more than fighting knives, and that is knives for food preparation. This is my favorite chef's knife, and I'll get to this blade in a minute, but first I want to talk about chef's knives in general. There are really a few qualities that all chef's knives should have. Number one is they should all have a full flat grind. There should be no bevel midway down that blade. Number two, they should all have fairly thin spines, and number three, they should be broad. That's important for the following reason. You need to put as sharp an edge on that knife as possible, and that is the most important quality of a kitchen knife. The reason is simple. It's safer. If you have a dull knife, you have to apply more pressure, and that's when you risk slipping and cutting your finger. A sharp enough knife should really glide through whatever food you're cutting with it. It's not that important to have a stout spine because we're not cutting hard objects. Most of us buy our meats at the supermarket or from the butcher, and the bones have already been cut, so we really shouldn't be using our chef's knives on bones. The other reason you want a thin spine is because the proper grip for a chef's knife is never to hold the handle in an overhand or foregrip. The way you really want to hold a chef's knife is by pinching your index and middle finger against your thumb on the back of the blade. Wrap your other two fingers around the handle, and that's what gives you positive control for really fine slicing and chopping. And that's the proper way to hold the chef's knife. So, I'm already at 2 minutes and I haven't even talked about this particular knife, so let's get to it. Again, it's the Santoku design. That's a Japanese style blade, and it's different from a French style blade. Most French style chef's knives have real sweep to them, and they come to a very acute point. But not this knife. And I happen to prefer this design for a few reasons. Number one, Santokus tend to be shorter and thinner than most French chef's knives. And I find that keeps the knife lighter and more nimble, and I prefer that for delicate slicing and precision chopping. This knife, I feel I have tremendous control. I love this knife for that reason. In addition, another reason why I like that design is because it has a flatter edge. It doesn't have that sweep that most French chef's knife have. And I like that for really two reasons. One is I want to do a slicing action instead of a ripping action. And what I mean by that is I really want to place the blade flat against the food and slice it back and forth, maybe with a gentle rocking. And that's important because a lot of foods you don't want to rip. If you press that edge forward, that's actually a ripping motion with that tip, and you don't want to do that with a lot of foods. For example, fish. If you're cutting fish fillet, slicing it, let's say you've got a long salmon fillet and you want to slice it into sections, you don't want to be doing that with the tip. You want to do it with the full flat edge. The other thing is, let's say you are butterflying chicken breasts or you're scalloping veal tenderloin. You want to be doing that with a flatter edge. You don't want to be doing that with such a curved blade that you're going to be using really only the latter third to kind of rip through the food. The other reason I like this style of edge is because while it is flatter, it does have a slight curvature to it. I don't know if you can tell that on the video, but it does have a slight curve, which is nice for a little bit of rocking motion, which I like to use for mincing, dicing, that kind of thing. And using this knife actually is pretty quick for those tasks. It's really, really nimble. The handle on a chef's knife is really, in my opinion, nothing more than a counterweight. Because you're holding the knife in this grip here, the back of the handle really balances it. And I can tell you on this particular Santoku, it's amazingly well balanced. I have tremendous control with this knife, and it's really because that handle balances so perfectly. That being said, the actual design of the handle is much less important, but this one also has really beautiful fit and finish. The handle slabs are really perfectly flush with that tang, and it just is nice and attractive. Other than that, the handle is not that important to manipulating the knife. The steel is something that Wusthof calls X50, I don't know if you can read that on the video, X50 CRMO15. But basically what that is it's a high carbon stainless steel, and it's very hard. And again, that's to be able to take a very sharp edge and to hold it. Now that being said, I don't let this knife air dry. When I use it, I clean it by hand and I dry it immediately with a towel, with a dish rag. I don't put it down in the sink, and I don't let it come into contact with other metal objects because, again, I want to protect that edge. I never put this knife in a dishwasher. I feel they're too hot, and I just don't want to risk damaging that edge in any way because, again, a kitchen knife has to have as sharp an edge as possible. So I recommend you never put your chef's knives in a dishwasher. The other thing I want to mention about this knife, one thing I forgot to mention, is if you look at that blade, it has those scallops in them. And Wusthof calls that a gratin edge. I just call it a scalloped edge. But what that does is it basically hollows out the edge so there's less steel coming in contact with the food. That simply means less friction, and you can move the blade more easily through foods. I can tell you this knife in particular glides through food a lot easier than knives that don't have that feature. Some people say that that allows air pockets to form between the blade and the food. I don't know if that's true, but I can tell you that this knife seems to have a lot less friction than other blades, especially when cutting, certain things that tend to stick to the blade like butter, cheese, that kind of thing. This knife really glides through them easily. So that is my review of the Wusthof Classic Santoku and the Santoku design in general. This knife has given me many years of pleasure. It's very nimble and easy to use. I have a lot of control, and I absolutely love it. I've used it for years, and I recommend it to anybody. I give this knife a 9 out of 10 for that reason. I like it better than pretty much any chef's knife I've ever used before. The only improvement I would make is actually to make the blade just a little bit longer. It's a light enough knife that if they added, let's say, 1 more inch to the length of that blade, I would feel it's more capable and you wouldn't be sacrificing anything in terms of control. So I give it a 9 out of 10. I love that knife. I say go out and get one. That's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave comments, subscribe, and have a good one.
Let me light your candle, cause mama, I'm sure all the hand and I just around.